Welcome to your first tutorial on Anime Studio Debut. This application allows you to create a lot of interesting animations, and it's fairly involved in terms of the graphics that you need to use to create your interesting looking animations and all of the different layering and techniques you need to use to create movement within your animation. So we're going to start right at step one, and we're going to focus today on simply learning to use some of the drawing tools. So our first task is going to be to draw a simple cartoon head of an animal character. So I'm going to import an image, and the image I'm going to choose is of a simple dog. Now I've set this up so that I have two copies of the dog's head, and it will become pretty clear why I have two initially. Now when I opened up this image, it opens up a new layer with that image on that layer. There's already one layer created as the default layer, so in order for me to draw, I need to reorganize these and push my layer 1, which I'm going to click on and rename head. So as we start to work through this tutorial, we're going to create a different layer, a different vector layer, for each part of the dog that we want to eventually move in our animation. So if I want the dog to be able to wiggle his ears, I need to create a new ear layer. If I want him to blink his eyes, I need to create a new layer for eyes. And in creating these extra layers, it makes it easier to organize our drawing as we proceed. So we're going to start on the head layer, and I can use my wheel on my mouse just to zoom in a little bit. And on the left-hand side here, I have all my available drawing tools. So I'm going to start with my freehand pencil tool. Now, when you choose your freehand pencil tool, you have a number of options available to you here, and you have a number of options available to you across the top. So first off, take a look here. I want you to turn off taper start and taper finish if they are turned on. We're going to use variable line width set at none. And I want to set my smoothing to somewhere in the middle. And you can play with these to see how they work, but the more you turn up your smoothing, I guess it's self-explanatory, it makes your lines smoother. So I'm going to leave it right around there. And for these options here, I want to make sure I turn on auto weld. And I don't want to trim the start or the end. So auto weld is what I'm going to use. So I'm going to click on my pen tool, and over here I can preset the style and color I'm going to use for my pen. So I want a width of 3. I want the stroke to be black. If I want to change that, I can simply click on it and choose from my color picker the color I want, but it's currently at black, or I can simply click on my eyedropper and come over to my current drawings and pick and choose the color I want. So for the head that I'm going to start with, I want this to be a gray color. So I'm going to pick and choose and come over and choose the light gray, and then back to my pen, and on this side I'm going to draw my image. And it doesn't have to be perfect because we have the ability to edit this as we go. So we want it to be as close as you can get it, but you can see afterwards that we can fix it up if it does look a little bit off. And you'll notice it now shows me a little red dot, and that's because I had the auto weld feature on, which means when you get close to a line that already exists, it will make sure it snaps to that line to complete your space. So I've drawn the head, and there you see the outline of my head. Looks pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Now before I move this over onto here, which is where I'm going to actually build my character, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm actually going to take my selection tool, and I'm going to click on a very specific node. So when I select this specific node, I can go to my Move tool, and I have the ability to move these nodes around wherever I want. So what I want to do with this one, though, is change its characteristics. Because it rounded off, and I want it to be kind of pointy, as you see kind of the fur in the dog is pointy at the end, I'm going to click on this tool right here, which is called my curvature tool, and select pointy. And then when I grab that node and move it with my Move tool, that node stays pointy. Now that turned this into a long straight line, but I have the ability to take any one of these nodes and move them where I want. So you have the ability to customize your shape as you go. So I'm going to click on this one again, and I'm going to make it pointy, again with my move tool. And I also again have the ability to take and move any node I want. I'll jump down here and just reposition some of these so it looks a little more accurate. And what you'll also notice is that it creates, when you're doing a fairly involved shape, it creates lots and lots of nodes. And sometimes it's easier just to get rid of a few of these nodes and simplify your shape. And there's actually a tool that does that too, which is kind of cool, and I'll show you that in just a minute. So there I put a little bit of point on the fur. Now I want to take this shape and move it over here where I'm going to actually build my dog. So I'm using this side as my ability to trace and this side as my ability to assemble. So I'm going to take my selection box, move all the way around that head, and now I'm simply going to move it over here onto my dog. So there is my head. So I'm going to move on now to step 2. So I'm going to put more detail on my head later, but for now I'm going to do an ear. So I'm going to do the brown ear. So I'm going to create a new layer, a new vector layer. I'm going to call this brown ear because I have a brown one and a gray one. I'm going to preset my colors, so I have a black outline or stroke, and I want a brown ear. So I'll take my tool again, and I'm going to draw my shape. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you'll notice once I get back to the end, I can weld, and then I'm going to draw one more line here to start my weld and bring it down. So there we have my ear. Now my ear is not going to need much editing, it's pretty simple, so I highlight it and I move it over and it sits on top. Perfect. Now I'm going to create another layer, again a vector layer, and this one's going to be the gray ear. I'm on my gray ear layer. I'll come back over here, and again I'm going to pre-select my fill color. This one's going to be gray. I'm going to use my pan tool to move over a little bit here so I can see the entire ear, and I'm going to draw my gray ear. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. There's my weld. It fills in automatically because I have my auto fill and my auto stroke turned on. That means it will follow these characteristics here. I'll take my ear, I'll move it over and set it in place. Now, what I'm seeing here right away is that my ear is now on top of my head. Here, the ear is kind of behind the head. And this is where using the layers makes life easy. I can click on my gray ear layer and drop it down below the head, and then it is now below the head. So at any point in time, if you want to check the way your drawing is going to look, simply go to File and click on your preview. And it gives you a nice, clear, accurate preview of your actual drawing. Now again, I still have my background image there. If I want to preview it without my background image, I can come to my dog PNG layer. I can turn that off, and I can preview again. So there we have our character looking good. So I'm going to continue along here, turn my dog back on, and I'm going to show you a couple of other features. For the most part, what you draw on here is going to be pretty straightforward. You take your pencil tool, you set your line and fill, you draw your shape, you move it over, making sure that you've created the appropriate layer first. But I want to draw the eyebrows here and show you a little tool that is very neat. So I'm going to take my line tool as normal, and I'm going to draw my eyebrow on there. And you'll notice I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. I'll move in on that. Lots of little nodes. Now this tool right here is called the point reduction tool. And if you click on that and just do a big scan over any image or line you've drawn, it simplifies it by reducing the unnecessary points. So there you see it's got rid of several points. Now I have less to deal with. So what I would like to do now is click on one of them. I'm just going to move it a little bit. And I'm going to click on my line width tool. And watch what happens now when I slide my mouse to the left. It decreases the point of that node. So just turn the line thickness of that one point down. Now I can do the opposite. I can make it bigger or smaller, but I want to make it smaller so it looks like those eyebrows fade out at the end. There we go. So I've now created one eyebrow. Now I did that on the wrong layer. So please make sure when you are doing yours, you actually do them on the right layer. So I'm going to quickly delete that. And I will go back to my head layer, which is where I want my eyebrow to be. I'll draw it again really quickly. Use my point reduction tool. So just spray over it as if you're spraying it down. Now my selection tool, I can grab one node at a time, and I can move it. And actually I'm going to delete that one just by hitting the delete on your keyboard, and then I will make that one a little bit pointier. I'm going to make this one a little bit bigger. Sometimes it's a bit awkward in that it jumps around from node to node, and there are a few peculiarities with this software. And this is one of them right here. I'm not sure what is happening, but it does do some funny things at times. There we go. Make the middle thicker, the ends stay smaller. And I will do one more eyebrow. Point reduction. There we go. I'm going to click on that one node and move it to the middle. Give me a little more of a raised eyebrow kind of look. Take that one, shrink it down. Take that one, delete it, and then shrink it down. Now I can see in there, if I zoom in, I have several other nodes. I'm just going to delete those. And then I'll take that middle one and see if I can make that one thicker without too much hassle. And it keeps jumping. Oh well, I'll leave that one the way it is. And there I have a couple of eyebrows. So I'll zoom back a little bit. My eyebrows are on my head layer. I can select both of them, and I can then move them over onto my image. There we go. All right.